Hey everyone. All right, I don't want to make too many videos today, but I saw this one and I figured I had to at least comment on this. So I'll try to keep it short since we've already made the other video today. Here we go.
In the US, the death of an
So as you can see, the story, there's an Indian student in the US and apparently they were hit by a police car. And the claim is that the US cop mocked the death after they hit this person. So let's take a look.
Indian student has led to a major controversy. A new video is out. It exposes the apathy of the American police. This case dates back to January.
And keep in mind, she says the apathy of the American police. We're talking about one incident. We're not talking about every single police officer. We're talking about one incident. So we'll take a look. We just want to keep it in context, right?
It involves a 23-year-old Indian student. Her
Young
name
young
was
girl.
Janvi Kandula. She was in Seattle in the United States. She was hit by a police car, a police patrol car. The officer behind the wheel hit her. Another officer responded. Do you know how? By joking about it, about the value of her life. He said, "The city will write a check for this loss."
Wow. And I've even heard about that in some other cultures, where like someone gets wronged in some way, and to make amends for it, to make atonement for it, allegedly, you can just give them, cattle or goods or cash, currency, things like that. That's not going to make it right. So it's ridiculous, the claim anyway, that a police officer hit this girl and they're just going to cut a check. But hopefully there's some video to go with this.
The body cam footage has emerged. It shows how crass the police response was. It has triggered a strong backlash. American authorities have launched an investigation. India has expressed concern. Our next report
Express concern. That seems like a understated way to make a statement, but
is you more.
Janvi Kandula arrived in Seattle in 2021. She had just left her hometown of Bengaluru. She was pursuing her master's in the US. Like any other immigrant student, she had big dreams.
all right. Immigrant student immigrated to the U.S. at least for school, working on her master's, doing good things, right? Left her home country, is coming here to study, studying master's, wants to be a productive member of society, either here or back home. Who knows? Let's see what happens.
But it all came crashing down on the 23rd of January. Janvi was at the intersection of Dexter Avenue North and
So unfortunately, she's passed on. She had no idea this was going to happen, and this happened. Just to take in a little aside here, this is one of the reasons that you don't ever want to wait in life, to get right with God and to live a godly life, a holy life, right? You don't ever want to wait to live a holy life, because I seriously doubt that she knew that this day some police officer, and we'll get into that as we move on, but some police officer ran her over, is what it sounds like, and then made some callous statement about cutting a check for $11,000 to compensate her family, I guess, for the death. So she was in the prime of her life, right? She was on cloud nine. Just left her home country. She was going to study in the U.S., going to get her master's degree. Like, she had that the train was going up the tracks, right? She had everything in front of her. Going to have a good career. I don't know what her aspirations were, family, things like that. Who knows? But she had no idea, right? She was blind to the fact that she was going to go out one day and be hit by a police officer, someone who was supposed to be there protecting her, right? To protect and serve. And for whatever reason, and we'll get into that, someone ran her over and then made a very callous statement about it. But this is a good lesson to all of us, to never assume that we have more time here than we have, because we don't know, right? People have free will. They make decisions. Some of them are very stupid, and those decisions have consequences. But at the end of the day, we don't know how much time we have here, right? Only God knows that. So don't wait to live a holy life, because you have no idea how much time you have left here in your vessel. You don't know, right? You don't know. I don't know. God knows. This is our vessel. This is where we are at this point in time when you're watching this video. So you can make a decision today to live a holy life going forward, to protect yourself and to reap the benefits from God. Or you can go your own way, do whatever you want, live a sinful life, and hope that you have more time. But you may not. So just keep that in mind. it's always a good idea to live a holy life now, starting today. Because just like this girl unfortunately didn't know, we don't know, when our last day is here in this body.
Thomas Street. She was crossing the street. That's when she was hit by a car. Not just any car, it was a police patrol car. Behind the wheel was Seattle officer Kevin Dave. The body cam footage of this incident
he's
has been
revving.
released. In the video, one can hear a loud roar from the engine.
Yep. Can't see the speedometer. Camera's not that good, but
The speedometer shows that the car was going at 119 kilometers per hour. According to the
Not sure
police,
what the conversion
Kevin
rate's
was
fast.
responding to a high priority call. He should have been sounding the car's siren.
all right. 119 kilometers, whatever that conversion is. He was going fast. I could hear the engine. He was flying. And he didn't have his lights or his siren. Did she say lights and sirens? Nothing?
According to the police, Kevin was responding to a high priority call. He should have been sounding the car's siren, but according to officials, he wasn't doing it consistently.
So
Kevin
no,
hit the brakes just
no
a
siren.
second before it hit Janvi. The car at that moment was going at 101.
all right. I don't know if he had his lights on or not. It looked like maybe there was some light reflected off something there. But no siren. So if you're walking down the street, all you're going to hear is this loud car. And I mean, it sounded loud in the car. I don't know how loud it sounded outside the car. And it wouldn't matter because if you're going that fast, depending on when you hear it, you may not have time to like react. Or maybe you've got your headphones in or something, or you're texting. Who knows? But either way, if you're going to be flying down the road, cop or civilian, anybody, like you can't be flying down the road. They have speed limits for a reason. It's to protect us so we don't get hurt. So this cop is flying down the road, which it sounded like. It's hard to see exactly what the speedometer showed there. Going fast, you can hear the engine, with no sirens on, just flying through the city. These are big buildings here, right? Look at this. I mean, he's definitely in the city, just flying around down the road with no siren on. That sounds insane to me. I don't know what kind of call he was on or what the procedures are, but this seems very ill-advised because you're going to end up hurting an innocent person just like he did.
Kilometers per hour. So Janvi was flung far away by the impact, almost 100 feet away from the spot.
Wow.
She was taken to Harborview Medical Center. That's where she succumbed to her injuries. Officials have been deliberating whether to charge the officer. So they sent a Seattle Police Department union leader, Daniel Orderer. Daniel is a drug recognition expert, so he was asked to examine whether Kevin was impaired. Daniel, too, was wearing a body cam.
Well, I would hope he's not impaired. He's a police officer. He's supposed to be enforcing the laws, looking for people that are out there drunk, driving around, killing people. So I would certainly hope he's not on drugs or alcohol. But at the end of the day, police officers are human just like we are. Like, we screw up from time to time, and they screw up. But, there are levels of sin and there are degrees, and, you can have things you do a little bit wrong and things you do very, very wrong. So if he's a policeman out there driving around intoxicated, which I don't know. Maybe that's just protocol. They have to send him out there to check on it. That's possible. It would make sense, right? There was a fatality, so I would guess they just have to check that. Let's see.
He later called the Guild president, Mike Solon. He was supposed to report what happened, but these were his comments. First, he laughed
Limited
about the
value.
incident.
I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead.
All right. I don't know what that is. So he's talking about the incident in kind of like a callous manner. Just very, I don't know, just very physical, just the way it happened. Like, let's see, let's be fair. Let's give it another listen.
Laughed about the incident.
I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car.
Yeah, it sounds very callous the way he's talking about it. And I don't know if that's just because of their job, maybe, you just get used to it. Like, you're a paramedic, so seeing someone that's bleeding, to me, I'd be freaking out, right? I go to a car accident and there's someone there bleeding, there's like a bone protruding, like, I'd be freaking out because I'm not used to it. But, to a paramedic or a nurse or a doctor, right? To them, they see it all the time, so they become like desensitized to it. So for them, they might talk about it in a normal way, like, oh, we got a compound fracture here, this is going on, let's do all this. Like they might seem very calm and just talk about it like I would talk about anything. Whereas I would be freaking out because I'm not used to it. But this doesn't appear to be the case. I realize they're desensitized to it, things like this. But number one, I would hope you're not desensitized to running people over. I can see being desensitized to going to like a domestic dispute call or something like that, or a DUI, you pull someone over and they're drunk, you're like, oh yeah, I've been through this 100 times, whatever, you're used to it. But you just literally hit someone and ran them over going, I don't know what speed he was going, it was fast. And you bounced them off your car, and then you're talking about it right after the fact with a supervisor, coworker, whoever that was, and you just seem very callous, like it doesn't even matter. I would be freaking out. My heart would be pumping, my adrenaline going. I wouldn't be able to breathe. Like I would be like in distress, mentally in distress, if I did something like that. So it's odd that he's just the way he's talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, I just hit this person and they flew off the car. It's just odd that his tone just seems off.
But she is dead.
Yeah, and that's where you lose me right there. So even if you're desensitized to it, you just bounce someone off your car going, I don't know, 80 miles an hour, whatever that conversion is, and you're laughing about it, like maniacal laughter. That's fair. The way they described it. That sounds evil, like, or at least you have no regard for human life, none, right? Even if it's not evil, like you just don't value life, right? God created all of us, right? We're all God's creations. And you're laughing maniacally and you just bounce someone off your car. That's insane. You just don't care about life. You literally don't care about life. And you don't respect that girl's life. And everything from the day she was born up until the day you hit her with your car, there was a life there. She grew up with her parents and her friends and whomever. I don't know her life story. But she had an entire life of events. If you could just go back and watch it, just visually through her eyes, to see her entire life. From the day she was born, everything that happened to her, up to that point, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Like it's life, right? It's ups and downs and ups and downs. So if you could just go back from the day she was born and popped her eyes open in the hospital or wherever she was born, and just watch everything that she saw and everything that she heard and everything she felt in her body throughout her entire life, up to this point, when that guy hit her with her car, you would see that, number one, there's a soul in that body, but you would see that she is a person and she had all these experiences throughout her life up to that point, and all that happens and you hit her with your car and kill her, and you talk about her like you just hit a mailbox. Like there's not a life there and a soul there that you just hit. So extremely callous, and then you're going to laugh maniacally after you just killed someone. You have to assume you killed her going that fast. So this type of police officer is not someone you want on the payroll, ever. I don't even want to be around people like this. I don't associate with people like this. Because you're not a holy person. You cannot be holy. When you hit people with your car and kill them and then laugh about it, that's sick. You don't respect life if you do things like that. That is someone's probably sister, definitely someone's daughter, right? Cousin, friend, coworker, student, whatever, volunteer. That she's someone to a lot of people. And you just hit her with your car and acted like it didn't even matter. Like her life didn't matter, who she was didn't matter. And then you're going to laugh about it? Like there's something seriously wrong with you. If you're like this, there's something seriously wrong with you. You don't have a good relationship with God if you act like this. There's no way. Because you're not respecting her. You have no respect for her. To talk about her like this and to laugh after she dies, like, I hope this guy's no longer a police officer. Because you cannot have people like this in positions of power. Whether it be a government leader, whether it be a police officer, anything, any position of power, you cannot have people like this because they don't respect life. They don't respect the life that God gave us. All right? And all the experiences in our life up to this point, he's talking like you just hit a mailbox, doesn't care. And to laugh about it, it's disgusting.
Then he said Janvi's life had limited value, and then added that the city should just write a check for $11,000. That's all he thought her life was worth.
Yeah, just write a check. Just yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Wow. Yeah. I hope as I write this video, this guy is no longer a cop. I don't even want to associate with people like this, because you don't value life and you literally sitting there joking. While you're a police officer, you must know that you have a camera on, right? You understand that. Like, I know when I turn my camera on that I'm on camera, right? It'll be recorded and it'll always be here. This guy's driving around hitting people with his car with a camera on, microphone, video, everything. It's all recorded. It's all documented. And you're sitting there laughing that you just killed someone, and you're saying, oh, just cut a check for $11,000. To God, that person is priceless, to her friends and family and coworkers and students and co-volunteers, whatever. To everyone she knew, she was priceless. So you can't say, oh, let's do $11,000. That's disgusting to talk about people like that. And this is someone who's in power, who's allowed to lock you up and throw you in jail, right? If you have moral values like this, who's to say that this person won't just be like, oh, well, you don't really have drugs on you, but hey, here's some I just got from this last stop. Whoops. Now they're on you. Let's take you to jail. All right? His moral compass is definitely off. It's not even close. So you don't want someone like this with any kind of power, because they can hurt people. And if you laugh after killing people with your car and you joke around about their value and, oh, it's $11,000, you don't have any compassion for people. So if you don't have any compassion for people, I don't want you in a job where you can enforce laws on other people. You shouldn't have any power, right? Your power should be relative to your compassion. The more compassion you have, the more power you should have, right? Because you're a good person. You're allowed to have that level of power. But if your compassion is below the floor, awful, you shouldn't have any power, right? Because God values our compassion and our empathy. And this person, at least from this limited clip in their life, granted, he's had a whole life from the day he was born all up to this point. It's all a series of events that happened. What he could see, what he could feel, what he could hear, everything, right? So you can say it's unfair to judge someone on one particular event, but this is pretty damning as far as what was recorded here. So this person absolutely should not be a cop, and it's not someone I would ever associate with if you act like this. Like, I don't know people like this, because I don't keep people like this in my life. No respect for life, joking around, laughing, you just killed someone, and then you're like, oh, just cut him a check for $11,000. Like, that's sick. You're a sick person. But thankfully, we all answer to God at the end of the day. So those scales will get balanced. You don't have to worry about that. The system is designed in such a way that, we have free will. We make decisions, and those decisions have consequences, good and bad. But we can control all of it. We have total control over it, because God has control over the system, and the system works, and it's fair. But we screw up. And unfortunately, there are consequences for that. So
Daniel says his comments were taken out of context. He says his remarks were intended to mimic how the city's attorneys might react to the death. But the comments have led to widespread backlash, from Indian Americans to lawmakers. Everyone has slammed the incident.
Of course.
So what is the United States doing about it? The Indian consulate has raised the issue, asking for action against those involved. The US government has since swung.
Well, honestly, if you're a US police department and you see this damning video go out to the world, do you really want... Let's just talk about the people in Seattle. Just the people in Seattle. Do you want them thinking that you have a bunch of police officers like that running around the city? And that's just looking at Seattle. That's not taken into perspective, right? all the people in the United States, much less all the people in the world, right? Do you want them thinking that you have people like that on the force and you don't know it? Like, I guess it's possible that he's a wonderful person and we just happened to catch him on the worst day of his life and he was being that callous about killing someone, but I highly doubt it. Typically, when you act like that on camera, you've been like that a long time. There was a series of events leading up to it, but somehow you got to this point where you act like that. I don't see how there's any way possible, to be quite honest, that that person cannot be known by his coworkers, right? If you work with someone like this, and maybe you have in your life, someone that callous, it's complete disregard for people's lives, doesn't care, it's very selfish, right? Only cares about himself and his small little circle. If you work around people like that, and you probably have, maybe not this bad, but you know it, because that police officer doesn't live in a bubble, right? They interact with coworkers, they have supervisors, they have subordinates, they have, all the people in that structure in their workplace and in their life, right? If they go to church, like, people know them. They have friends, they have family. So people know if this guy's a complete jerk, it's some kind of, I don't want to say it's a jerk. So people know that. And if you know that and you don't say anything, then you're basically complicit in it because you didn't raise the issue up and you know this person doesn't care about people. Look at the way they're operating. And then look at the image, right? He just smeared the entire Seattle Police Department by acting like this on video. Now it's going to go global, right? They put it on here. So it's on the internet now. Everyone's going to know it. And now the assumption is everybody in the Seattle Police Department is like this, even though that's not true. It's one person, but you would have to assume that somebody in the Seattle Police Department knew how callous this person was. You have to assume that, right? Because you interact. You see him when you're getting coffee, which you shouldn't be drinking, but you see him when you're getting coffee, you see him when you're getting water or whatever. You see him when you're sitting around eating snacks, you're doing reports, you're doing things, right? People are interacting with this person. So they knew who he was. It's not like he just walked in there off the streets. They've been working with this person for probably years. So it's odd that the police department hasn't gone through and figured out who these types of people are and got them out of there. Because the last thing you want is for events like this to happen and then videos to go out and the world to see it. And people already don't like police officers because they commit sins, right? A lot of people don't like police because they get locked up and they go to jail. And a lot of them deserve to go to jail because they're committing sins. And a lot of our legal system is based off religious values. So you need police officers. If you don't like them, right? If you don't like police officers, why don't you stop committing crimes, right? At which point there will be no budget for police officers. Right? If you all stop sinning, if you don't like cops or you hate cops, all you have to do is stop sinning. Right? Don't rob people. Don't shoot them. Don't set them on fire. Don't rape them. Don't stab them. Don't steal things. Right? Don't commit crimes. Live a holy life. Absolutely holy. Live a holy life. Dedicate yourself to God and doing God's will for the rest of your life, which for your eternal journey will be amazing. And then there won't be any budget for police officers because you won't need them, because nobody will be committing crimes unless you just want them out there just helping people across the street, right? Like community service officers, something like that. But, all the people that hate police, just stop committing crimes and there won't be any budget for them and they'll just naturally go away and find other jobs. But unfortunately, people have free will and they live absolutely unholy lives with callous disregard for other people. So they run around stabbing and shooting and setting on fire and raping and beating up and stealing and any other number of horrible things you can do to another person. We do, because we have free will and we're extremely sinful people. Some of us, not all, thankfully. But yeah, so this person is not operating in the police department by themselves. Other people had to have known who this person was, right? The people work with this person. So it's odd that it got to this point and he's still in that police car. right? He's still out driving around. He still has a gun, maybe an AR-15 in the back. Who knows? He's got mace. He's got all kinds of other, devices he can use. And it sounds like he's a complete jerk, It sounds like it sounds like the guy's just a complete jerk, right? Unholy jerk, no compassion for others, doesn't care. That's what it sounds like. So how in the world did the police department not know this? Someone knew this. I'm sure if you interviewed everybody that works with this guy, hey, is this guy a holy roller, right? Does this guy seem holy? Does he value other people? Like, who is he? Who is he as a person? I'm sure if they were being honest, they'd be like, well, this guy's a real jerk. Super callous, doesn't care about other people. Like, that's not the kind of people you want toting a gun around with handcuffs. So this is just a single incident. It's not representative of the entire police force. But I would also caution that somebody in the police department might have known what kind of person he was, just because you do interact with each other. So someone knew. Right? Unless we just caught him on the worst day of his life. But the fact that he was laughing, I would think not.
To action. An investigation is currently underway. In a letter to the Kandula family, the Seattle City Mayor says the comments were of just one person and that it doesn't reflect the feelings of the city.
Right, but back to my point. If I'm working with someone that is that absolutely callous and doesn't care about other people, trust me, like, if we work together, I will figure that out. If we're coworkers and I'm sitting in my old life, project manager, I was in a cubicle, right? But I know these people. You're going out to dinners with them, lunches, you got corporate events, you've got e-learnings you have to go through. Those are awesome. Everyone loves e-learnings. But you're interacting with each other. It's in some capacity, you're interacting. Even remotely, even if you're working, which they're not, but even remotely, you're on video camera, you're on Zoom, you're doing things, right? You're on TeamViewer, you're whatever. So you're interacting. You get to figure out people when you interact with them like that. So I want to be clear that the comments made by one person do not reflect the feelings of the city. That's true. It is one person, and it's unfair to say that they're all like that. They can't be, right? Everyone would already know this. But what I'm saying is that, to be clear, somebody in the police department, other than this person, knew how rough and raw this person was and how nasty, right? Laughing about killing someone. If you're that sinful, someone else knew it, right? You don't value people's lives. There's no way in that police department that other people didn't know. So now the question is, well, why didn't anyone in the police department turn this person in, or go to HR and say, hey, look, this person you have out here with a gun and handcuffs running around, he's extremely callous. He doesn't care about people. He's the type of person that would probably run someone over and then laugh about it, right? Maybe you wouldn't have that particular example, but for him to say stuff like that on camera, on video camera, I mean, imagine if you had access to all those. Like, what are they saying? I don't know. But if you work around someone like that, you will pick up on that. Like most of you all in an office, out of the office, whatever kind of job situation you're in, or in school, whatever, you're interacting with people somewhere. You pick up, the longer you're with them, you'll figure out what kind of person they are and what kind of values they have. Their moral compass, which way is it pointing? You'll figure it out, right? North or south, which way? You'll figure it out. So there's no way that someone in this police department didn't know that this person was this awful, right? That's all I'm saying.
While the death of Janvi is a tragic incident, this isn't a singular event. It's a stark reflection of the issues plaguing US law enforcement. This incident highlights the pressing need for greater accountability, more transparency, and reform within the police force.
Yeah, transparency, yes. They have the video and the audio, so it's really hard to get away from stuff like this now, thankfully. Can you imagine what was going on back in the day before they had the cameras? Assuming, let's say this person right here, right? This officer right here. If you didn't have that video from inside his car with him laughing, with him joking about the check, without the video and the revving of the engine and all that, if you didn't have all that, do you really think this person would have been prosecuted? So let's just rewind time back before the cameras came in, right? Or maybe some agencies don't even have them yet. That's possible. I don't know what their funding looks like. But let's just say back in the day, this person doesn't have that camera on and you never get to see this video, like I didn't get to see it, you would never know that people like this are out there running around with a gun and a badge and tasers and AR-15s and everything else, allowed to throw you in jail for the rest of your life, make up charges, plant drugs on you, whatever. You wouldn't know it because you wouldn't have the video. So at least we have that. So that is some transparency, which like this is great, right? So you can get people like this out of the force. What was your other point? Let's see.
Greater accountability, more transparency, and reform within the police force.
Yeah, reform within the police force. I would say, and I've seen it mentioned in, like, this isn't even fair to say, but like sitcoms and stuff where there's like, you know, you don't want to rat somebody out, right? You don't want to talk about the other fellow cops, probably because maybe you could have been ratted out for something, who knows? But just based on like TV series that I've watched, I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it seems like there's something in the police department where you don't want to be that person that runs to like internal affairs and says, hey, this person over here, you know, you need to really watch out for him, right? Because you might be a pariah. And then all the other police officers hate you because you turned in this person. But had someone actually gone to internal affairs before and said, hey, this person, I've interacted with them, like, I'm just saying you might want to talk to them, you know, psych evaluation. I don't know how they would do it. I'll leave that up to them, right? That's not my place to say. But I'm seeing red flags on this person, right? I've interacted with them. They seem extremely callous. They don't care about people. They've said disparaging remarks. They've said racist remarks. They've said this, that, and the other. Whatever it is, you know, I would at least go to internal affairs and say, hey, you might just want to talk to them, right? I'm not saying that you got to like write them up or do anything. And I know nobody wants to be a rat, but if you want to clean up people's perception of the police department and you have people like this out there running around, right? This guy, you've got him running around representing your department. You would have been better off turning this person in before and getting him off the streets than having him run around. And now look what's happened. Now you got this video out there. He looks horrible, right? And now the entire city looks bad. The world, I mean, police in general look bad because of this one officer. And it's because of that like veil of silence or whatever they call it, where you don't want to talk about a fellow officer. But if you have people like this in your department, they need to be gone. Because eventually with that video on there, right, with that camera on there, it's going to come out. It's just a matter of time. And every time it comes out, it degrades what people think about police officers a little more, a little more, a little more, right? And people already have, especially criminals, already have a reason not to like police because you put them in jail, which is probably where they belong if they're committing crimes. But every one of these bad officers just makes other police good police that got into the job for the right reasons, to protect and serve. That's their job, protect and serve. But every one of these little bad apples you have just degrades the value that people see in police and their perception of police. So the veil of silence or whatever, you need to get rid of that because you need to protect other police, because every time one of these videos comes out, you're just going to look worse and worse. Even though it's a one-off scenario, and that's true, but at the same time, I'm telling you, people worked with this person, this guy. So somebody knew how little this guy cared for people. Whoever worked around him, someone knew. This guy wasn't operating in a vacuum, right? He operated around other people, and you pick up on things.
The US needs to ensure that tragedies like this are not only prevented, but also met with the seriousness they deserve.
Of course. All right. So this one ran longer than I expected it to. Sorry about that. I just wanted to give my input on that. So unfortunately, a young girl had her whole life ahead of her, was taken out because a guy was running around with no siren on. Don't know about the lights, but at least no siren. High rate of speed in the city. It was nighttime, right? Extremely unsafe way to operate. At least should have the siren on, running around. And then afterwards, right? And then after doing it, has the audacity to laugh about it, talked about her callously, right? Talked about her like her life didn't matter at all. Literally laughing, right? So thankfully we have cameras, because if not, I can only imagine what officers like that would be doing to people if they didn't have cameras. Look what they do to people when they do have cameras on. Can you imagine back in the day before they had cameras? what they could get away with, especially with the veil of secrecy with other officers, like no officer's going to turn you in, and there's no camera, there's no video. They could have gotten away with anything. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying you could. So it's setting up a bad situation, especially when they're people, right? You have good people, you have bad people. So this is a bad apple here. And it's unfortunate for all police officers. So if you work around people like this, I recommend you tell someone, because that's what God would expect you to do anyway. And if you're a good person, you don't want people like this out there running around harming citizens and making other police officers look bad, because you'll be grouped in with people just like that. That's it. Have a good day.